1989, a match was played between Mikhail Tal and Vishwanath Anand. It is considered to be one of the greatest match of the 20th century, as Tal was expected an easy win over young Anand, but the results are still shocking. Unfortunately, this is the only game played between them. Let's see how did the game progress. Mikhail Tal started the game by pushing his c2 pawn to c4. Anand responds with a c7 pawn to c5. The opening by Anand is very interesting, which went like knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, and knight to d4. Generally, it is said that it is not good to move a piece twice in the opening, but Anand knew knight takes d4 and cd4. This was a very good exchange for him because the white doesn't have very good squares to go to. Tal played e3 in return, and Anand took and Tal recaptured with its queen. Anand's intention of trading his b8 knight for Tal's g1 knight is a good trade for him. On the other hand, white is ahead in development. Anand continued with g6 and d4 is the best move, but Tal d4 is the best move, but Tal played b3, bishop g7. After that, bishop b2, both sides developing their pieces. Anand pushes its pawn to d6. Black plays g3 and then rook b8 was played. Was played. Knight g6 would have been a natural move, but developing the rook also protects a b7 pawn and the bishop too, and gives a chance for developing a bishop. The game progresses on with bishop g2, knight g6. The knight is coming to f5 in order to fight against the d4 pawn. Queen d1 by white, black castles and white responds with castle as well on the king's side. Bishop to d7. Here Tal played a4 bishop to c6, and taking this c6 is not great because after b7 c6 leaves the b3 pawn will will be weak on the open file. So d4 was played by Tal. Take on g2, king g2, and now rook to c8. Maybe taking on d4 and knight f5 made a sense, putting pressure on d4. But after d4 d5, white has a small edge. So Anand plays rook c8 and Tal to queen moves the queen to d3. C takes, e takes, knight f5, pawn to d5, queen b6, and here after queen d1, the white could have gained an advantage. But Tal played knight d1 and Anand shocks everyone by taking on b2 Tal's knight to b2, and this is the key moment in the game. What should Anand play here? Anand played an amazing move e5, developing his e7 pawn. With e5, Anand's intention is to capture the center by f5, and he has an outpost for the knight on d4. So Tal took a poisson, so Anand takes, but after f6, you see that the queen is looking at f2 and the rook is in support too. Also by the knight can be a threat to Tal's king. So Tal played rook d1 and the rook f6, rook d2, pawn to e5, and Tal gives a check to the king. King g7, queen b5, queen c7, and Tal played c5, which is a blunder, and Anand takes c5 with the queen. Queen takes b7, Anand plays c7. White does not have a good position because there are checks by the knight. The king is weak, the f file is opened up, and the queen is looking at f2, and the rook is also in support to the queen. b3 pawn is weak and the knight is not active, and after queen b5 it is a bad position. Tal played queen b5. Here Anand plays a strong move b4, so rook fd1, now rook fc5, and the queen went to a8. He takes on b3, knight d3, and rook c2, queen e4, rook to c4, queen d5, queen c3, rook b2, rook d4, a check to Anand's king. The king moves to h6. After queen b5, Anand played the ending move and finishes the game in style. Knight to e3 checks the king of white. The king goes to g1. Anand played queen c2, rook went to f1, and Anand took on d3 and Tal resigned. It is very pity that these legendary players only played once.